Gentlemen, what would you say you do here? Welcome back to Bad Movies Rule, the podcast that talks about the films that the common folk love. Forget the critics, forget the award givers. We're talking about movies that are awesome, regardless of how financially successful they were or what other people might think. Today is an all-time classic. We're talking about Office Space. Good morning, gentlemen.
Guten Morgen.
Hey,
How are we doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. We got a full house today. We're going 5 deep, although one of them is not with us yet. He's on his way. But Mel Vandy will be joining us partway through the episode. But this morning we have Mr. Kurt Mummer with us. Kurt,
Hey,
welcome
how are
in.
ya?
I'm good, dude. I love how you're dressed today. Is this for
Thank
the
you.
movie?
Yeah.
He's rocking a
I
sport.
put on a shirt and tie.
Yeah. And what I love about Kurt is he never wears a regular shirt or a regular tie.
No.
Every piece of like dress clothing you have is bright colored, crazy. It's awesome. I love it.
I shop at Attitudes, which is a pretty much non-white person store. And I love it. I love shopping there.
Dude, you're always rocking it, man.
Yeah.
And you look fantastic. Very patriotic today.
Thank you.
He's got a red and white striped shirt with an American flag tie.
The stripes and stars.
That's
for
right.
The BMR.
I love it. Joining us today in just his regular attire, which is a T-shirt with a stain on it.
Right.
Clint Bush, how are you this morning?
One stain. Thank you. You didn't notice the rest of them. That's fantastic. I'm doing good. I'm having a great morning.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Beaming in all the way from Omaha, Nebraska, we've got once again with us Brady Cox. Brady, how's it going, brother?
It's going good. I'm wearing my X-Men T-shirt today, so it's a classic too. It's like the classic lineup.
Oh yeah, look at it. That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is something Kurt would wear normally.
Yes, absolutely.
So for those of you who don't know, because obviously you can't see him, it's like the panel from the top corner of a comic book where it would say like how much the comic book was and have the little faces of the guys.
Yeah, I'm used to doing visual media. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all right. That's what I'm here for, man. So yeah, my name is James Hauser, and I'm also doing okay this morning because we're talking about a movie that probably not what you would think is a bad movie, and so you're probably sitting there wondering. And honestly, guys, I've been getting a lot of this lately. People hitting us up on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/badmoviesrule, and I had one again the other day say, what exactly are the rules of Bad Movies Rule, right? They see some of these movies that we're doing and they don't understand, or I'll post a video on our TikTok or anywhere and they'll go, this isn't bad. Like immediately they're like defending the movie because they see the title of our show, right?
Sure, absolutely.
And what I feel like I have to take a second and explain this again for people, okay? There's all kinds of bad movies, all kinds.
For different reasons.
Yeah, well, there's some that are just awful and they're just straight up just bad movies that you would never sit and watch.
This movie is trash.
Right, exactly. There are movies that are what we would say good bad movies, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That are so bad that it becomes hilarious.
Right.
And that it's enjoyable for a reason that was not intended by the filmmaker.
Big Trouble Little China.
That may very well be one which I can't wait to talk about someday. And there are movies that are good, that everybody thinks are good, but the critics said was terrible, right? So think about this. Think about it like from a standpoint like film snobs, right?
Sure.
How many Oscars did Office Space win? Okay.
All of them.
How many critics when it came out was like, this is the greatest movie ever, right? The movie bombed when it came out. The common folk discovered Office Space and made it an all-time classic.
Sure.
Okay. And, or the movie that we just did a few weeks ago was Rad, right? This is one of the movies that somebody argued about online with us. Like, how many film students you think are sitting around dissecting Rad? Okay. Do you think film snobs are like talking about Rad?
No. We are. Yeah.
It's like, this isn't a bad movie. Like, I know it's not a bad movie. That's when we're talking about this movie because it's awesome. But nobody, like the film elite, looks down on people that enjoy these types of movies.
Right.
Well, isn't ultimately movies art?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
subjective.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So it should be bad in quotation marks, right? Bad movies rule,
I'm
right?
not adding quotations to our.
No, I'm not either.
Yes.
But I'm saying that, verbally.
Yes, no,
That
I agree with you.
What people don't understand is they see our title and they just think we're saying all these movies are bad. And some of them are.
Opposite for the most part.
For the most
there
part.
are some movies it's like, okay, somebody is supposed to be supporting this movie, but the person is so ashamed of the movie that they won't take credit for it.
Right.
Well, we give the subject up front. Bad
Yes.
movies.
Yes.
And then we say rule.
They rule.
We enjoy them.
But some people seem upset that we're even insinuating they're bad in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're talking not in terms of what you think, right? We're just talking about in general these movies.
If Siskel and Ebert hated it, it was a good movie, and we're going to tell you why.
Exactly.
Right. And so today, I felt like diving back into that again because we're talking about a movie that everyone's going to be like, how dare you have this on Bad Movies Rule? We're talking about Office Space.
Right.
It's not a bad movie.
Not even a little.
But this movie was a failure when it was first released. I don't know. Did any of you see it in the theater?
I didn't see it in the theater, but I did. It was probably one of my first blockbuster rentals.
Okay. So
and when I first saw it, I didn't get it.
Okay.
I was just clueless to it. And I guess I felt like I had to work in an office to understand the joke. But recently watching it, I actually enjoyed it more so now than when I first watched it.
So you've come back around to it. Maybe it's just the age you are now when you watch it. I mean,
well, I think I've enjoyed movies longer now at this point.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, everything I went to watch was what I wanted to watch.
Right.
So now that we've been doing this, I've actually kind of been branching out and watching other movies.
Oh, good.
So that, Rad, Megaforce, all these ones that I wouldn't typically watch.
Now that's a great example of a bad movie.
Right. So ultimately, watching Office Space this time around, I really came to enjoy it as, I guess, a character-driven movie.
Yeah.
Because each one of those characters that are in the movie help drive the storyline ultimately to where they end up.
And that is a fantastic point, too.
Yeah.
Every person in that movie is necessary. Mm-hmm. Like every single cog moves the ship, so to speak.
Even Tom Simkowski, whose whole point is to be unnecessary, is necessary to 100%. The plot.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, I'm not going to know names on this at all.
That's okay. You don't have to. We'll just describe every character as
the only one
the guy
I know
that
is
did the
Stephen
thing.
Root. And he's been in tons of comedies.
Basically, the one he's talking about is the assistant that Perry Cox brought in.
Oh, the guy from Scrubs?
Yes.
No. That's actually Tom Simkowski is the guy that created the jump to conclusions.
You're right. No, he's totally necessary.
Right, but in the film, the whole point is they sat him down and realized he actually does nothing.
Oh, gotcha.
At the job. Right?
I see.
And he was totally expendable and therefore fired.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but ultimately,
he was really trying to sell his job, though. Yeah.
Good
I have
things.
People skills.
That's
You're
right. That's right. So, but even he's necessary because it shows Peter that good things can happen if you wait long enough.
Right.
Brady, what was the first time you saw Office Space? What was your experience with this movie?
I don't remember the first time I saw it. It was obviously word of mouth, probably from one of you guys. And I remember that it didn't do well at the box office and they didn't really market it at all. But then, looking back, how are you going to market this movie?
Right.
Like the people that are going to laugh at it the most are not going to go after their, 9-to-5 job. They're not going to go, sign me up for another hour and a half of that. So I think this movie was doomed from, the get-go, really, to be a quote-unquote bad movie.
I think I bought this movie in a set. It came with 3 other movies. It was like a 4-pack in the bin at the end of the Walmart.
Wow. For me, I actually saw this in the theater, but and to your point of who's going to go see this movie, the reason that the subpar marketing job actually hooked me to go see it is because at the time this movie came out in 1999, I was waiting tables at a TGI Fridays. Right. And so they obviously are ripping on TGI, and I couldn't use the words TGI Fridays, so they called it tchotchkes and changed the colors from red to green. But as I'm seeing the previews, I'm like, they're making fun of Friday, so I'm definitely going to go see this movie. I didn't care about the Office stuff at all.
You didn't have any context, right? It was just, this is why I want to go see this movie.
This is why I want to go see this movie. And so that was the reason that I went, and it was The office stuff was funny. I never worked in an office at that point. I was 20 years old, but they nailed all the Friday stuff. I'll say it now. Whoever worked on this movie, I don't think Mike Judge himself ever worked at a Fridays, but he knew somebody that did because, man, they knew the lingo.
Yeah.
Like how many that we had to have a certain number of flair. They called it flair at Fridays.
Well, I believe he was Stan. He was the guy that was her manager.
Right.
That's Mike Judge.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying whoever wrote the script had to have had some, because even some of I was a trainer. This is a sad thing. I had been at Fridays so long. I was a trainer there. And we would have these classes in the morning, and even down to the lingo they used, it was the same. Like at Fridays, they would say the thing: people can get a cheeseburger anywhere. They come to Fridays for the atmosphere and the fun. Right? That's what the flair is about. It's about having fun. That's straight out of Friday's training material. Okay?
Wow.
So Mike Judge, I know never worked there. Probably. I mean, he was already a successful writer at that point. He'd done Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
But he knew somebody that did because he crushed that stuff. Did you guys all like it right away? I know, Kurt, you said you kind of had to come around to it.
I was working at Abbott Laboratories, and even though I was in the mold making shop, there was, right next to it, we had our office. We definitely had the superfluous employees that were unnecessary, over the top, just absolutely ridiculous redundancy in people coming to tell you how terrible you've done if anything went wrong. I hit that one. From just being in a big company. I don't think it has to be an office. It just has to be a big bloated company.
No. Brady, were you working in an office the time that you saw this?
Yeah, it was. It was a very small office. There was only like 6 of us or something. But there was definitely times where, everybody who was above me came to give me shit about the smallest detail.
Yeah, well, let's dive in, guys. Let's talk about the vitals. So, as we've already mentioned, this movie is written and directed by Mike Judge. Mike Judge of Beavis and Butthead fame. And this was really the only other thing he had done up to this point. Now, famously, we know he's done Idiocracy. He did King of the Hill, right? I mean, the man's a comedic genius.
Yeah, I would say so. I've always enjoyed his work.
Can I admit something on here?
Sure.
Not for any reason that I'm specifically avoiding it. Just my life and the timing has worked out this way. I've never seen a single episode of King of the Hill. Not one.
I've seen a few.
Is it good?
I like it.
It's entertaining. Absolutely. Okay.
Some episodes are better than others, but it's
for
quality.
A show that ran so many years, you're going to have some episodes that are, let's get the week done.
Right.
But like legitimately, I would say every episode has some kind of comedic redeeming.
I mean, one of my favorite first movies ever was Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's one I only saw once, and like right when it came out, so I remember very little about it. But
it was just full of just great comedic jokes that were pretty much either you knew from the show, and there was a continuation of that.
Yeah.
But then there was also just which, if I'm not mistaken, I think King of the Hill's voice was used quite often.
Yes, Hank was the voice of Hank anyway. Was the traveling across with the camper van?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
hey, baby.
I even sometimes will, if they have the reruns, or I think that you can stream Beavis and Butthead, but they don't have the video parts. To me, the best part of the show was always when they were watching music videos.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And just
that's what made it special.
Right.
That's what set it apart from all the other animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so Mike Judge dipped his toes for the first time here into film, but this was based off of an animated short that he had did, which the Milton series, which apparently was on SNL too. They ran the Office Space cartoon.
I didn't know that.
And so the whole premise of those cartoons, it wasn't like Peter Gibbons wasn't in it at all. It was all between Milton and Bill Lumbergh. Were essentially the only two characters that existed in the little animated shorts that he did.
That's Ricky Bobby's dad?
Ricky Bobby, yes.
Yeah.
Gary Cole?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's talk about who starred in this movie. This movie's cast was really, really, really good. So it was the main stars, Ron Livingston, was Peter Gibbons, and then we had Jennifer Aniston, kind of I want to say pre-fame. She'd already been doing Friends at this point, but her movie career certainly had not taken off. And so Jennifer Aniston was just kind of starting off in movies. Stephen Root, as you mentioned, as Milton, and then Gary Cole, who, for me, seemingly was dropped out of the sky, out of nowhere, and into this movie. Because did anybody know who Gary Cole was before they went and saw this?
No idea.
No, not a clue.
It was like this 41-year-old actor just like dropped out of the clouds and into one of the most iconic parts anybody's ever played in a comedy before. just strolling around an office with a coffee mug in his hand.
Yeah.
Just walking up to people.
Yeah.
Hey, Clint, what's happening? Right. Gary Cole, I had to look this up, had some credits prior to Office Space. He had done a lot of like episodes of TV and stuff. But you know what he did that we actually probably all saw him in and didn't even realize it was him? He was Mike Brady in both of the Brady Bunch movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like in the mid-90s, before ever making Office Space. He was the dad.
Well, I think Ben Stiller's wife or ex-wife was Marsha on those series too. She was phenomenal.
Right. But, I mean, I saw that. Did you guys ever see the Brady Bunch movies?
Yes. Yes.
I know I've seen it once, but
Are those going to be on this show? by any
I
chance?
don't know, maybe. But we all
Or
saw.
is that technically a spoof? We're not doing spoofs now, right?
That's true.
That's
That's true. No more spoofs. The Spy Hard rule is now in effect. Yeah, man, but Gary Cole was an active actor, but at this point, if you look at his filmography after Office Space, he just like exploded and took off, and now has been in a ton of stuff. Like you said, famously Ricky Bobby's daddy.
riding in a car with a cougar.
That's right. And another actor I'll shout out for this is David Herrmann. Do you guys, just by his name, know which character that was?
No.
Okay.
No idea.
David Herrmann.
Michael Bolton.
Yeah, I played Michael Bolton. Nice job, Brady.
Yeah. I actively watch out for this dude because he's so brilliant in this movie.
Mhm.
Like just playing just a dude.
Yep.
Who's like, I kind of think, I want to think that he is that guy. You know what I mean? And that's why he did it so well. But I don't know. I've seen him in other stuff where it's just like, it seems like he's trying too hard or,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But
He's had quite, less so than in a future in film, he's had quite the voiceover career. The guy has done tons of cartoon work. He's like in hundreds of episodes of King of the Hill, hundreds of episodes of Futurama. He's been in Adventure Time. He's been in DC stuff. He's been in tons and tons and tons of cartoons.
I'm going to have to definitely look him up then because, I mean, I love cartoons. That's my thing.
Right.
So.
That's just why I thought maybe you'd know who he was. But
I had no idea.
just pulling up his IMDb here, he's been in over 100 episodes of Bob's Burgers, playing. So it looks like he's the guy in Bob's Burgers that plays every character that's not the family.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like he's got a list of like 47 characters.
He's like the Hank Azaria of Simpsons.
Right. He's he's salesman. He's usher. He's blood bank guy. He's restaurant guy. Right. He's done a ton of American Dad episodes, Central Park, BoJack Horseman, Disenchantment. Like I said, Futurama, OK KO, tons and tons, even some Scooby-Doo stuff.
Well, he was even in Idiocracy, Dude, Where's My Car?
Well, Idiocracy was another Mike Judge movie. And so Mike Judge...
that was a documentary from Mike Judge, wasn't it?
Like, it got a time machine and went to the future and made a movie, and no one cares.
I don't know if we'll ever do that movie, so it's got electrolyte.
It's got what your body needs.
It's got what your body needs.
Yeah.
It's got what plants
Out of the
want.
way.
It's got what plants want. That's right. That's right.
You mean water, like out of the toilet?
All right, guys, let's dive into Office Space here. So as you guys watched this movie, I know we usually do a segment here called Scenes That Must Be Discussed, and I feel like we could have a conversation about every single scene in the movie, right?
I was going to say, for this particular movie,
Yeah.
I think we can go old format because legitimately the whole movie speaks all the way across.
So the thing that I have a hard time with this movie on is I feel like it's more of a hangout movie in that there isn't really necessarily a great plot. There's not a ton that happen. I know like this like crime plot comes in kind of towards the end, but even that it's kind of like just brushed away.
Sizzles out.
You know, at the end. And like, so the movie's not really about, or what is the movie really about, I should say. I can't really figure out what the message of the movie is.
Is that what makes this a bad movie? Like when they went and reviewed it and everything, it's like, hey, you know, this story arc is kind of, you know, a wavy line instead of an actual coming around to a conclusion.
Yeah. I agree that may be part of it, but I also trying to figure out what's the overall message that this movie is trying to say. Brady, do you know?
Don't work at Chotch.
I have no idea. I do know that when I do watch this movie, I'm like waiting for some climax that never comes.
Right, exactly.
This is more of a cuddle movie.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
We're not getting to a climax. Get it?
I don't understand.
It's a hangout movie. So this is like Tarantino's Jackie Brown, right? He's like, this is more of a movie where we made it so that you hang out with these people for the next 90 minutes, right? Is essentially what it is. It's not necessarily going.
Well, that's
a ton
where I
of
was
places.
saying it's definitely a character movie, and
Right.
without all those characters being as, and I don't want to say over the top, but I guess exaggerated,
Yeah,
then the movie's not going to go anywhere.
sure.
Well, you get the feeling that each quick scene is just working out a cartoon panel, like legitimately what
Yeah.
the joke would be. But here's the 3-minute explanation of what this joke is.
Right, so it's more like joke to joke, kind of loosely tied to some kind of forward moving plot. And then at the end, he realizes, as a writer, there's got to be some kind of conflict. So they put this crime thing into place,
Right.
and it kind of gets us to the end of the movie. And now I'm nitpicking here because I love this movie, so don't take this as me like shredding it. But narratively, it's a little weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
I mean, you think that
Well-
the first conflict is going to be the girlfriend,
Yeah.
or now it's the boss, or now it's this team of
Right.
what the heck were they called? They were consultants.
Oh, the consultant, the Bobs.
The Bobs, yeah. Now we've got the Bobs, and now we've got this. Oh, hey, look, they got over on them. They're going to steal the pennies. This is great, or the partial pennies. And
They're
then,
fractions of a penny, Clint.
And then, I missed the decimal point. I don't know how this happened. I always do some mundane.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very angst driven.
Yeah,
Like it gets you to a certain point, like you feel kind of like, oh, like in your gut.
it's
you're kinda-
effective at doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're uncomfortable, and you're like, how are they going to get out of this? And all of a sudden they go into the next one.
Right.
And you're like, oh, all right. This is the way we're going now?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, I'm on board. But I do think that that's something that they did very well, was the fact that it, not only was it angst driven, but it made you feel that and took you out of it and put you into the new one.
Right.
Without any issues. So in that aspect, I feel like that's very,
It's a smooth ride.
yeah, they succeeded at that.
I think that, when you look at it, the original short, Milton burns down the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the script you're working with. Okay. You start out with the end. Milton burns down the building,
Right.
and gets away with it because obviously he's not the bad guy in this movie. The large corporate, faceless thing, the
In
bad
a
guy.
tech.
If you're a writer, you're sitting there going like, we can't do an hour and a half movie about Milton. That would suck. That would be like watching Borat, but like worse.
Right.
Not to, let's be honest.
Milton's funny,
I
but
love
it's
Borat.
in small doses.
Right.
I will
Right.
say Office Space is much more funnier than Borat.
Yeah.
Yakshimash.
Now that you jumped to, you notice that Mel Vandy has joined us. Like it's like the bat signal. You mentioned Borat, and he just comes in the room.
Very nice.
And as a writer, I wish I had written that and
Yes.
planned that, but I did not.
I agree with you. The movie, the plot line they put around, okay, they've got to flesh out the Milton and Bill Lumbergh thing. So they came up with this character of Peter Gibbons, who's a guy that hates his job. And so the premise is Peter goes to see an occupational hypnotherapist
Right.
in order to, as he says, can you just like zonk me out so that I don't know that I've been at work?
Yeah. So I think I've been fishing all day.
Right. Can I come home and think I've been fishing all day? And then the bit that they do, which is kind of like a bit from like a Jim Carrey movie. Think of like Liar Liar or Yes Man, where the guy dies and now he's stuck in this state of not caring, right? Like right in the same way that Jim has to say yes from now on because the guy died or whatever,
Right.
although he didn't. But
Or like in Liar Liar, where he has to tell the truth all the time.
exactly.
Right?
And so now the guy keels over and dies, and now Peter is stuck in a position where his inhibitions and cares about work are gone. And it's a good premise, mined for some good comedy, but that's essentially the plot of the movie, right?
A lot of people get to that point naturally in their career.
That's true. Mel, since we didn't get a chance to ask you earlier, when was the first time you saw Office Space? Did you see it in the theater? Or
I did,
You
yes.
did. So what did you think of it the first time you saw it?
Loved it.
Right off the bat.
Loved it right off the bat.
That's-
I've never worked a true office job,
Okay.
and it was a nice glimpse inside the reality that is cubicle farms.
Yes. And so I think there are some things in this movie that everybody can relate to, right? The movie starts and he's stuck in traffic on his way to
dude,
work.
Best scene of the movie.
Of the
Until
best scene of the
next
movie
one.
until
the next one. They're all the best scene in the movie
Yes.
as you're watching this. That's what I'm saying. Every scene moves to the next. Needs to
Everyone's
be.
done that where you switch into the other lane because it's moving faster and then it immediately
Every lane I am in is stopped.
Right.
They are the ones creating the problem.
Absolutely.
We
Right.
could go on 2 hours here about traffic patterns and zipper merges and
Yep.
the guy with the walker's like a mile down the road now.
It's fantastic. Like
Yeah.
those little side bits are just
Yes.
hilarious.
So what do you think about the scene also in traffic where Michael Bolton is listening to some gangster rap, and then he sees a black guy walking towards his car, and he just turns the volume down
And locks the doors.
doors.
And then immediately goes back to full volume playing.
Right.
Once he walks by. All right.
Yeah, you think that scene happens if this movie's made in 2021?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's-
it can still happen.
I think
absolutely.
it's still real.
Okay.
I think the other side would chuckle at that too. Haha, they scared.
Okay. I think it's hilarious.
I'm sure there'd be a disclaimer.
It's a good way to set up who these people are, right? And you get Samir also in traffic wanting to tear his steering wheel off. And then by the time they're all in the office, you already kind of have a sense of who each of these characters, okay, these are the three guys we're going to be with in the movie.
Yeah.
Here's who they are. And then we jump straight into it. And this is actually one of the scenes that I thought needed to be talked about because I think it perfectly sets up the dynamic between Bill, Lumbergh, and Peter, and just Peter's existence. You talked about the tension of working in an office where he has three different people come up to him about the cover sheets on his TPS reports.
Right.
And Bill says it like 3 times in like one sentence without stopping, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Because
go ahead
he's
and
not
make
even
sure-
listening to him.
I'm going
He's
to go
not
ahead
listening.
and make sure you get another copy of that memo.
No, I've got them. Yeah, it's just that we're putting cover sheets on all our TPS reports now. And if you could try to remember to do that, that would be great. Like he didn't even listen to a word Peter
No.
said.
Well, and even the second guy, the other boss, I mean, he came in, he's like, no, I already talked to Bill about it. And he's like, but we're going to have, hey, all right, buddy. You know, like,
Legitimately, the second boss was 100% the same delivery and style
Right.
of. That's management
except
school,
for he
Yeah.
was the happy guy.
He was the
like,
happy.
hey, buddy, we're buddies.
Right.
And he,
He's the
like,
guy that's going to
smacked
slap
him
you on the
arm.
back. Yeah. Dom.
Well, one of the things that I'm sitting here noticing now, because I didn't realize that this was done on a short between
Oh, yeah.
the boss and
Milton.
but everyone kind of circulates around those two. Mm-hmm. And those two are already established without any sort of preempt of who are these characters, other than we see Milton at the bus stop. But other than that, it's pretty much those. You can just see the existence between those two and how they hate each other already.
Oh, sure.
Between Milton and the boss.
Oh, yeah.
And Milton's like, hey, man, I'm just trying to do my job.
I was
and what's
told
with you
that I
want
could
my
listen at
stapler?
every single
Yeah.
volume.
Well, and that's something that I know everybody has encountered at some point. We've all worked with a Milton or have been a Milton.
Sure.
We've all worked with a Lumbergh.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So
gosh. Yeah.
because of that, everybody related to it, which I think that alone just, you didn't
Yeah.
have to establish the character any further. You're like, I know this guy, and that's Bill, and I hate Bill. Bill needs to retire or die.
Well, that's this movie actually really helped
I
me.
feel like you know Bill.
I do know Bill.
And he needs to die.
This movie really helped me because I did end up working in an office setting for almost 15 years. I was in banking for a long time prior to what I do now. And I had seen this movie, a handful of times before I even got into that world. And so in a way it helped me out because when I saw stuff, once I got in the office, I was
jubbly.
already laughing at it.
It was a training video for you.
Kind of it was, right? Like, oh, okay, this guy is a total Lumbergh, right?
Yeah.
Or here's this guy's, the girl that walks around and says, sounds like somebody has a case of the Mondays.
Yeah.
Right? Every office has got these people.
Do you think in management training school they show this video and they're like, this is who you want to be?
That's right. I'm going to have to go ahead and ask you to be just like this guy. That would be great.
You find yourself, if you're in it long enough,
That's right.
you eventually become the villain.
Here's my problem. I work in a store and there's 2 of us. So that means there's
Yeah.
a Lumbergh and a Milton.
So what you have to do
our
is you have to
store.
go down to the racing track, right?
Right.
And tell your Milton that you're going to need him to go ahead and move his desk
Down to the basement.
down to the basement.
Behind the boiler.
That's right.
That'll be great.
See how he responds to that.
That would lead Clint
Yeah.
to divorce.
But you got to get your wife to come in too, so that in the background there's this constant white noise of corporate accounts payable. Kelly speaking. Just a moment. Just a moment.
Actually, you had that at home for a while.
I did. We do have a home office. So
See,
yeah.
there you go. But yeah, so essentially Peter gets real, and even after those 2 guys come by, his phone rings. He picks up the phone. Yes, I have the memo. Somebody else is calling him
Yep.
to tell him, and we realize he's friends with these other 2 because they go and grab some lunch together over at Tchotchke's, which is just TGI Fridays dressed up in a new name and color. And we're introduced to this girl that he's attracted to, but too scared to go talk to, which is Jennifer Aniston's character. So it does a great job of establishing the friendship between the 3 of these guys and kind of the dead end job that they're all in prior to Peter going and seeing this hypnotherapist. Now, this is where I think the movie gets a little unrealistic, and you guys tell me what you think, okay? Because after he goes to see this hypnotherapist, these are all the things that Peter gets away with without losing his job.
Right.
He doesn't show up on Saturday.
Or Sunday.
Or Sunday, all the way till late Monday. He tanks his interview with the Bobs. He blows off Bill. He drills the door, tears down the sign. He steals Bill's parking spot. He blows off work to fish on a regular basis. He's gutting fish at his desk and not dressed in his regular work clothes. He plays video games and eats Cheetos and destroys his cubicle and makes Bill clean it up. Oh, and he rips off the company for $300,000. These are all things he gets away with.
Well, he didn't get caught for the $300,000 because of the fire.
Right, but I'm just throwing that in there as a cherry on top.
But yeah, no, he absolutely did not tank the interview with the Bobs. So the Bobs thought he was fantastic. This is a real straight shooter with upper management potential.
Right, they loved him, but he went in there and tanked the interview. Right, I mean, he literally sat down and he's like, yeah, I generally come in 15 minutes late, and then I just stare at my desk for like an hour. And I do that after lunch. I pretty much do about 15 minutes of work. I mean, that's him tanking the interview.
So something to think about from the management perspective, because nobody ever looks at office space from the manager's perspective.
No,
First of all, you got Lumberg, who's dealing with people that cannot put the TPS or the cover sheets on the TPS reports.
Right. Ridiculous.
The point where
very
you have
simple.
To the point where you have to say it multiple times and pass it down the chain every single day. Then you get these guys in the interview. They're sitting there, the headhunters, and they're dealing with all these droves of people that are sitting there going, yeah, I'm management potential because I put the cover sheets on the TPS reports and I'm a good worker bee. Then you get this guy who's kind of refreshing after they're sitting there listening to these jackholes for an hour. And he comes in and he goes, look, I don't like this. I'm bored here. This sucks.
Yeah.
And they're like, finally, a breath of fresh air.
Well, if you've got a set of consultants, if you've got a pair of Bobs coming in, obviously there's a problem. This guy is the first one out of everybody who's come in and interviewed and said, hey, listen, I'm aware there's a problem. This is the problem.
And there's always a problem in management.
And I do love what Peter says in the interview, right? And he says, I've got 8 different bosses right now.
Right.
And that's my only real motivation is not to be hassled, right? That and the fear of losing my job, but that'll only make somebody work just hard enough not to get fired, right? So he makes an excellent point.
Yes.
That if he busts his butt and they ship a few extra units, he doesn't see another dime, right? So where's the motivation? And so I love all that and how that all comes out because he's right. These people get in there, especially working, I'm assuming he's salary, so he's not getting paid for those Saturday, Sunday days he's supposed to come in. And he's going to come in the weekend and kill himself and not see an extra dime. Why would he be motivated to do that?
Well, I guess that kind of proves to the point of just that this is a movie, and obviously unreal things have to happen in order for other unreal things have to happen.
Yes.
It's just one of those things we just have to accept and love as part of this movie.
See, I don't think they're unreal, though.
Oh, you think somebody would get away with all of that and not lose their job?
Except for the $300,000. I think that there's such a shock to the system that people wouldn't know what to do.
I think you'd get written up for taking a named parking space.
I don't know about a corporate job, but I can tell you I've been a part of where, I work in the trades.
Yeah.
As much as they want to be corporate and try and run it as a corporate job, there's a lot of shenanigans that happens in the warehouse and,
I'm sure,
and everything else. I mean, I saw a guy once gut a deer. And I was just like, that he hit on Route 41.
Brought it into work.
I come walking in early, and there's a trail of blood coming from underneath the work van. Okay. And I am like, what is going on here?
All right.
That should never be a thing.
Exactly.
All right.
But it happens. And he's like, no, I talked to the boss. I called him this morning. Told him I'm a regular hunter. He knows. And it was just like, okay.
All right, but then so I get that where you work that might happen, which is still insane.
Absolutely.
But Brady, given the office environment that you work in, if somebody gut a deer or brought a fish in and was gutting fish on their office desk, would they still have a job?
I don't see. For one, it's like super expensive to hire somebody new. It takes forever.
Yes.
And that also means that everybody else has that much more work to do, right? So I think if it's a one-off, if somebody's having a bad week or 2 weeks or whatever, you're not going to fire them right away, right? You know, it's just you're going to try to be like, dude, what's going on?
Right.
Do you need some time off? honestly, like in a tech, that's not their.
No, the symbol of their company is a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, you're not going to fire somebody after like just a short spurt of whatever. You're going to try to figure it out. On the other hand, I've worked with people who should have been fired years ago, and when it finally happens, everybody's just like, yeah, why didn't that happen years ago?
Yeah, I mean, there's constantly people that I've worked with that's like, how is this guy still here?
Yeah. Well, that's Milton in this movie, right? This is the guy that they actually did fire years ago, and then for whatever reason, through some glitch, he still gets a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think it goes to show how
Yeah.
this corporation is completely failing itself.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got Milton who's been there for however many years, he's still getting a paycheck. So you got Peter coming in and he's doing all this and nobody's saying a word about it. Then obviously,
Well, Bill tried.
Yeah, but
Tried as in like, so I guess we kind of sort of need to have a conversation. I mean, that's not.
well, and I think to his point, he's like, I don't want to do this,
Right.
because he's happy with his cushy setting where
Right.
it's like I just go around and be.
Well, that's why he got headhunters, or not headhunters. He got his consultants in there to take care of the problem for him, so he didn't have to be the guy.
Can we talk about the Bobs for a second?
Love the Bobs.
The Bobs are incredible.
Perry Cox is amazing as Bob.
John C. McGinley, just so you guys know, I almost named the Will Patton Award the John C. McGinley Award, right? As like one of these guys
I
that's
could absolutely see that.
always in these small parts and just super intense and going for it. And so this guy, everything he's in, Scrubs obviously is what everybody knows him from. But if you look in a lot of movies in the 90s and 2000s, he's like a side character in so many movies.
Well, that's the thing. You take a guy who's a side character and always killing it and going for it, and then you put him in this literally half the show role in a weekly reoccurring, and he still has that intensity and killing it in every scene he's in.
Yes.
You're going to remember this guy.
Oh, yeah. And what's great about John is this is a comedy, but he comes in and plays it with completely straight.
Yeah.
And is incredible. Him and the other Bob does a great job as well. I feel like the Bobs, I don't know if you guys ever had a consultant come into work and have people interview for their own jobs, because I've been through this myself.
Yes.
Yeah. So what was that situation like?
Outside consultants came in to tell us how to be efficient.
Right. Right.
And when it comes to selling shoes, you don't want somebody from the outside that knows nothing about selling shoes coming in to tell you how to sell shoes.
Right. But companies do this all the time.
They do.
Is it so that they are not the bad guys when they go, oh, well, we can lose this guy, we can lose that guy?
No, it's because somebody in management got duped by this freaking accountant or this
consulting
firm to say, like, hey, man, if you just give us your money, we can save you 3 times the money you spent with us. And in the short term, it looks great on paper, but you've destroyed your company.
Right.
Right. And they're moving on before.
And they're gone. They've got the paycheck. They're out of there. And in the short term, like I said, it looks good for that manager who's just looking to bounce out. Hey, look at how much money I saved for him.
Well, there are useless people in every office. That's the thing.
True.
And not that I want people to lose their jobs, but how about you just take those useless people and give them actual things to do?
But if your manager, 3 assistant managers, and 4 sub-managers can't figure out who the useless guy actually doing the work is, then I don't know.
Well, let's talk about Intech overall, right? So Bill Lumberg did not hire these people, these Bobs, right?
No.
Nobody at that building hired these Bobs, right? So I'm assuming this is a branch, and that at the main corporate office, somebody way up high was just like, "What the fuck's going on? We need to figure out why these people over in this branch are just treading water."
Right.
Which is what's happening.
Right.
Lumberg wants to tread water. He doesn't want to rock the boat. That's why he doesn't want to deal with Peter. He just wants to keep doing what he's been doing day in, day out, not give any effort.
So what you got to do then to break out of this cycle is you have to come up with a really great idea. Never have to work again.
Yeah.
Right?
I think if we wrote a computer program that took and rounded off all of these subroutines and put the money into an account that's ours, we would never...
We have to have money to come in first before we can
Darn
do that.
it. So we need to
I was talking more about Tom Simkowski's incredible jump to conclusions, Matt.
Oh, that's never going to work.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Like in Superman 3?
Like in Superman 3. Very underrated movie.
Conclusions.
That's
Jump to conclusions, Matt, in Superman 3.
That's right. I love this guy, and I just want to give him some appreciation. I thought the guy that played Tom Simkowski, just crushed it and did...
Like the truck crushed him?
Yeah, well, that was actually the first scene that he shot, and they didn't have a guy on set that like knew what they were doing, and so they put him in all that, you know, the casts and all that stuff, and put him in the wheelchair. It was the first scene he did in the entire movie, and it took him like 5 hours to get out of it because they didn't make a back door into the thing. Like once they cast him to get it out easily, he said it was a miserable experience, but he did an awesome job. He crushed it, man. As that guy, every office has one that thinks they're going to get fired every day they come into work.
Oh, yeah.
And
Today's the day, man. Today's the day.
Right. You keep saying you're going to lose your job, and every day you're still here.
I have people skills.
Can we talk about I want to mention this as an aside. There's a couple of lines of dialogue that are very famous in this movie that I also found out are totally improvised. Anytime somebody comes up with a line of dialogue to fill a scene and make the scene work, that's impressive enough. But then when they do it, and it's a line of dialogue that becomes iconic. I think of like back to Roy Scheider's, "We're going to need a bigger boat" in Jaws, right? Probably the biggest example of an improvised line that ended up being just huge. There are two lines. So one of them was David Herrmann as Michael Bolton. When he was explaining to Samir, they're talking about, you know, the whole thing that a high school guidance counselor would ask you, if you had $1 million, what would you do, right? And that the point of the exercise is and he had all this dialogue he was supposed to say to explain it. But the printer beeped, and he looked down and saw that it said PC load letter, and that was totally improvised when he looked down and said, PC load letter, what the F does that mean? And starts like hitting the printer.
That's
totally
amazing.
improvised. And
relatable.
Okay. And the other one, which I think is even the even better one, is in the interview with the Bobs, when Peter's second interview, when the other Bob, not John C. McGinley, I feel bad, I don't know the other guy's name. The other Bob looks down at the sheet and he says, "We're going to get rid of not going to work here anymore anyway." I'd say that all the time. He improvised that. That's incredible to me.
Yeah,
that is pretty incredible.
Good. I like that one as well.
Good.
So kudos to these. I brought all this up to say a lot of the bit guys like the Bobs and Simkowski and all these guys just did some real awesome work in this movie, and they all deserve a ton of credit.
I'd like to say pick any actor in this movie and find one that did a bad job.
No, you can't.
No, absolutely not.
Even the sounds like somebody has a case of the Mondays lady did her job well.
I was going to go even one step further, and the overly top flair guy from Tchotchkes.
Okay, so
yeah, that guy there, he played that annoying little douche amazingly.
All he did was exactly the way they train you to do it at Fridays. This is what was so funny about it is he was doing what they taught people, what they actually wanted people to do. And in training, we would laugh like no one would ever do this, right? You're supposed to go up to tables and be like, "Hey guys, how's it going? Can I get you started with some pizza shooters or extreme fajitas?"
Yes,
just constantly be selling every
Actually, we will take
4
those.
seconds.
That's 3 orders on this side of the table.
And then all the extra flair and everything. That's he was literally just straight out of the training manual of a Fridays, which is why that character was so hilarious to me.
Yeah, killed it.
Do you remember when I came and visited you at there and at Fridays? We allowed to talk about this?
You absolutely can. I just don't. I don't remember.
So I came in and you're like, and it was a busy night.
Yeah.
And you came up and my girlfriend and I came in. We won't mention names, but anyway. So I came in to see you, right? And,
okay.
And there was this whole like ordeal where I see you at the next table. You're like, "Hey, how's it going?" You got the whole like game show voice. "Hey, welcome. Oh, I'm so glad to see you."
Yeah.
And then you come up to me and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And completely, you're like, "Oh, this is dog. I'm just tired. This is, And there's this like, but you're talking normal to me.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, no big deal.
Yeah. Right.
So then you go, you get my appetizers, whatever. You come back, and now you're doing the game show voice to me. Do you remember this?
No.
And I'm like, what's the deal? And you're like, my boss saw me talking normal to you.
Oh no, I didn't remember that.
And you had to come back and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I was just like, "That's so weird.
See?
Like, why do you?" It was like a machine. It was like you just hit a button and you turned into this.
He may have missed out on pizza shooters.
But on the inside, I was dead.
Yes, absolutely. I could see it in your eyes. You just help me.
That's why I love this. Every time when he gives her a hard time about how much flair she has on, and well, I see you just have the minimum, and we encourage people to express themselves. I went through all of that. It was pitch perfect, right on the money.
I mean, how many restaurants have you worked at?
Oh, 7 or 8. I mean,
I was going to say, I know there's Joe's Crab Shack.
it was in my early 20s. I haven't worked in the restaurant industry in a long time. But when I was, you would only stay at a place for maybe, 6 months to 8 months.
Was each one like that, or was it just TGI Fridays?
Well, Fridays was the most extra.
I see.
Right? But they all, to a certain extent, had ridiculous expectations, and then they paid you nothing on top of it. That's we're not going to get into all that, but I don't miss my time in the food service industry, although I made a lot of awesome friends. This movie, if you're ever wondering what it was like to work at a TGI Fridays back in the day. Now, what's funny is they changed their whole image after this movie came out. If you remember, like you go to Fridays now, there's no striped shirts and pins and flare and all that stuff. They went to polos and they dropped all that nonsense because they got roasted so hard by Office Space that they became like a parody and couldn't do it anymore. So a couple of years after that, all that stuff was gone.
Do you think there was just some corporate guy just being like, this movie ruined us? Just somewhere just mad.
Yeah, they changed the whole thing, man. And it's funny because they never say Fridays, but everybody knew.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Did anybody think about the striped shirt industry? And how
those
they
poor
lost,
people.
I mean, between barbershop quartets and Kurt.
Keeping them afloat.
Barbershop quartets and Kurt.
That was the name of my band in 5th grade.
That's true. Yeah. So if we're gonna talk about some of the bit players, I think there's a scene that I want to talk about that I think features one of the best performances in the movie, and the guy's only in like 2 scenes, and that's the next door neighbor Lawrence.
Yes.
Played by Dietrich Bader.
Hey, Peter, man, check out Channel 9.
Check out this chick. Now, this guy resonated with me because growing up, my dad worked in road construction. And so I knew like 20 different Lawrences who would like come over all the time. Right. And they all kind of talked like he had the same mannerisms and everything. So this dude, he nailed it, man. Especially the point that like honestly, like the nostalgia feels were like overwhelming when the guy sat down. He's like, yeah, I'm doing the drywall up there at the new McDonald's. Right. And I'm just like, oh man, I know this guy. I know this guy. He killed it.
The first time I ever saw him, and I want to say, it was either this movie or Beverly Hillbillies. He played Jethro.
Oh, yeah, it was Jethro.
Yeah, and I loved him in that movie. And I don't know if we're talking about that movie anytime soon here, but
maybe
that is also one of the ones that I feel is very character-driven.
Sure.
I mean, you had Ernest. He was Uncle, I don't remember. Jed, thank you.
Jed Clampett.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Dietrich Bader, who I think at this point was probably most well known for Drew Carey show.
Drew Carey show, him.
Got a chance to do something totally different than that, and just crushed it.
Oh, I forgot he was on that show.
He was also Rex from Rex Kwon Do and Napoleon Dynamite as well.
Oh,
and I think from a writing standpoint, this is one of those scenes that's perfect. Yeah. Every line of dialogue in this scene is absolutely perfect, all the way down to what I think is one of the top quotes in the entire movie, which is his answer for what he would do if he had $1 million, which is 2 chicks at the same time. And the way he says the follow-up, it's like there's like a rhythm to it. It's almost like a song, right? Kind of chicks that would double up on a dude like me do. I mean, that's like modern poetry.
Yeah, he nailed it.
Right?
And then even Peter's response was like, well, obviously I would still want to do 2 chicks as well.
But exactly, that was what it was. It's like a moment later, it's like, well, what would you do if you had $1 million besides 2 chicks at the same? Obviously.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But
right. And the way Peter,
it goes like 45 minutes later in the movie. He's like, hey, Lawrence, you want to come over? No, I don't want you to ruin my life too. It's like it's such a good.
You don't really ever see him that much again, except when he tells him to watch out for his cornhole when he thinks he's going off to jail. But that's pretty much it for Lawrence, man. Is that one scene, but he knocks it out of the park.
At least he had good neighbors with the paper thin walls.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I will also throw this out there because I'm a huge Batman fan.
Yeah.
He is the voice of Batman from Batman Brave and the Bold.
Is he really?
Yes. And he does an excellent job as Batman.
See? What a guy.
And it's more of a comedy, I guess.
Yeah.
It's something that my daughter and I watch quite often. And
hey, Peter, man, I'm Batman.
It's got a lot of great jokes.
Now, man, I believe you'd get your ass kicked saying something like that, man. Anybody ever say
the delivery of that line is just perfect as well.
Yeah.
With the realization, he's thinking about it.
I
the
know
wheels are turning.
I know
Yes.
it's early, but
man.
he was absolutely my Will Patton Award winner.
Okay.
Here, but
All right. Well, we'll get. We're going to hand out
that one.
This is going to be a hard one to give awards out to because
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
I prefer this when there's so much, like in Galaxy Quest, you're like going to do a top 3. Good luck to you, sir.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
What did you guys think of the old school computer stuff? Every time I watch this movie and he's like, trying to close out his workstation or like when they're passing off the floppy disks and stuff. I mean, does that stuff give you the feels?
a little.
I think when he's turning off his computer, I love that because they go through like 17 different operating systems.
Right.
And it's just obviously like not real, but like it's just taking as long as possible.
Right.
I think they threw that in there for the IT people. Like I think Mike Judge was an IT guy at one point.
Oh, okay.
I really do. I can't verify that, but we can look it up later. But I think that's true. I really, because like it goes from like, it's like Mac OS, and then it's like Windows for a minute, and then
Right.
it goes to a DOS prompt.
right.
You have to set up all those shots, right? That's completely intentional.
Right.
There's no way they did that. Just I'll just have some assistant DP go film something. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah, like the floppy disk is great. Kids watching it these days, you're gonna be like,
What's
wow,
that?
why did it have like 3D printed save button?
Right. I like the they're sitting there and they're passing it off like they're all covert and this and that and the other thing, and then it just
Right.
like put it in and press the button and it's done. Like back in that day, you could have walked around anywhere with a floppy in your hand, stuck
Right.
it in a computer, and done whatever you're doing. Nobody would have said a word.
Right.
I mean, it's just
Exactly. It just looked like they're doing their job.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a joke that worked really well then, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, it just kind of, I don't know, that part of the joke is kind of gone these days.
No, my daughter watched the movie with me, and she's in high school now, and she didn't have a clue what was going on. A clue. She's like, "What is that thing? Is that like a USB thing?" I was like, "No."
Yes, it's just like that.
Yeah.
Only a lot slower and it
Essentially.
spins around.
Yeah.
That's right. Right. Much slower.
And it holds nothing.
Speaking of computer screen stuff that happened, I don't know if anybody paid attention to Peter's screen when he was playing Tetris, but Peter Gibbons is a terrible Tetris player.
That was the demo. He was not playing that Tetris. That
Okay.
was the demo from the Tetris.
Because no one's that bad at Tetris.
No.
I was not listening to what Bill was saying. I'm not listening to what he's saying. I'm just watching the game going, dude, are you gonna do it?
Come on, flip it,
Move the
flip it,
thing and
come
put it over to
on.
the side. There's a row right there. That's what I was obsessed with during that scene.
I agree with you.
Yes.
It just-
I looked at it and I went, "There's no way come on."
And he is button jamming 1,000 to 1
Right.
compared to moves.
He's just like nailing the arrow key like over and over and over again, but nothing's happening.
Maybe he just didn't care.
He didn't even care about his Tetris game.
Right.
Come on.
That's a crime.
This movie's
I'm
so
saying it was just a
unrealistic.
brilliant
Yeah,
performance.
that's the most I hate this movie. This is why it's a
Yeah.
bad movie. The guy can't play Tetris.
Trash.
Completely
All right.
unreasonable.
Unwatchable.
It's time to move into our segment that we call The Little Things. Which we probably should have done a half hour ago because we've just been talking about little things like this whole
Yeah.
time. But there's something specific that I wanted to ask you guys, a little thing in this movie that I want you guys to put yourselves in the shoes of Michael Bolton. Not Mike Bolton, because he won't go by
Yeah.
Mike because it's not his fault. That guy sucks.
Yeah. Why should I change my name? That guy's
He's the one that sucks.
Well, and that was one of my favorite lines was when he was like, "No talent ass clown started winning Grammys."
This movie made Ass Clown a thing.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was not that.
I don't think that's.
No, it did. I literally read about this. That ended up in Webster's dictionary, or was it Webster's? I wish I had the thing in front of me, but it was put in the lexicon. This is from this movie and referenced Office Space in it when they put it in.
I would also say "O face."
Oh, face. All
Go for a ride on
face.
the old bone roller coaster. So good.
right. So, but back to what so put yourself in Michael Bolton's shoes for a second. Okay, you're Michael Bolton. You work at Initech. You're a programmer who's unappreciated, but you definitely want to keep your job, right?
Yep.
And you're in this interview with the Bobs, and the Bobs ask you if you like Michael Bolton's music. Do you say that you do, or should he have said the truth in that meeting?
No, you absolutely lie.
You lie?
Yeah, you got to. He played it perfect.
You think so?
He wants to keep his job. He thinks that's what it's going to take.
I feel like after the first scene
Yeah.
of him locking the door,
Yeah, you know who
rolling
that
up the
person
window,
is.
He's a total
scared.
chicken.
Yeah,
there's no way he's going to tell him the truth.
Yeah,
I know,
He's
but
not that character. Now,
he's so spineless.
Me, on the other hand,
Yes.
I'm as honest as could be.
Oh, yeah.
I would
That's
just
a
walk
different
in there
story.
and be like, no, I hate the guy. I don't listen to his music.
Michael
I don't
Bolton
like it.
sucks.
Yeah, sorry.
I felt so ashamed for him when he said, "Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan." I just like, no, Michael, don't do
I
that.
love when you look at him and his tie's kind of like loose and he's starting to sweat. It's almost like he's being grilled. You
Yeah,
know?
right.
Like,
Right.
You know, I may not celebrate his entire collection, but
Yeah.
there are a couple of Michael Bolton jams.
Oh yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
No, Michael Bolton is successful for a
Like
reason.
the ones
He's a-
with Lonely Island.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Yes, Jack Sparrow,
That's right.
amazing.
Great song.
Michael Bolton, if you're listening, send us an email
And
to
come and
this
kick
show
us,
is trash.
kick us all in the face.
We need a new theme song, Michael Bolton. So,
Either Michael Bolton. I don't really care if it's
Yeah.
Michael Bolton from Minitech.
Brady, what about you? Should he have caved like that?
Oh no, I'm with Kurt on this one. Be 100% truthful, and honestly, we already know the answer,
Right.
Because they loved Peter. So if he would have been like, no, that guy, sorry, I keep doing it.
That's right.
That's $2.
Yeah, that's $2 in the jar. We're gonna have a pizza party later.
yes.
But so you're saying if he had done it, they would have appreciated that about him.
Yeah, they would have been like,
Potentially.
you know what? We don't have to worry about this guy just, blowing smoke up our ass.
All right. So there's a couple other things. Do you guys ever find that there are lines of dialogues from films that you end up saying all the time? Not necessarily like you're quoting that movie, but it's just worked its way into your regular kind of lexicon and you're
We have
saying stuff all
talked
the time.
about that eons ago
Yes.
with Tuesday. You know,
Yes.
like I didn't even realize, I hadn't seen the movie, or I'd seen the movie and like mentally sidelined it or whatever, but
Yeah.
I never even realized that's where it came from. So,
Yeah. So, okay. So yes,
Yes.
for you. How about you guys? Does that ever happen to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not just this movie, plenty of movies where
right.
it just all of a sudden slips into your talk and
And it's just something you regularly say,
yeah,
right?
and it doesn't blows your mind.
Yeah.
There's absolutely stuff from this movie.
Yes.
You know.
Half the movie.
Yeah.
So there's a thing from this movie that is probably the thing I say more than anything else in my everyday speech. That if I was to answer this question, like, yeah, I do it from all kinds of ones, but this one specifically. Anytime I'm doing something and something goes wrong or doesn't work the way it's intended, I at least a million times in my life, I've gone, yes, let's do that. Let's do exactly that. I say that all the time. All the time. It's a throwaway line. It's not like even that great of a line. It's him when he's hitting the button on the printer when it's not working. But
Yeah.
I just want to mention, this is the one line from one movie that I say more than any other one, bar none. Not even close. Let's do that. Let's do exactly that.
I'd also like to talk about one of the little things I feel like we've kind of overpassed is the whole stapler.
Oh, yeah, the red stapler.
I mean, that
Swing line.
was a, no pun intended, staple of this movie.
Yeah.
That, I mean, that's one of the scenes that I remember distinctly once I first watched this movie was, man, this dude is obsessed with the stapler.
That had to be something from the cartoons that I didn't see before.
Yeah, but being a
it
guy
was
who's
truly
got some OCD issues, I'm very much like, yeah, you can use my hammer or you can use my screw gun.
Yep.
Do you still have my screw gun? Where is my screw? Do you have it?
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's downstairs. Oh, okay. Do you need it? No, I just want to make sure that I get it back at the end of the day. And it's just there's this little like I get that. I get the like that's mine. Why do you need it? There's an office here with plenty of staplers probably on everyone's desk, but you need my shiny red one.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of the backbone of the whole plot with Milton, right? Is that stapler. And you know how much money this movie made Swingline? They weren't even making a red stapler anymore. They had discontinued their red stapler long before. And they got so many requests for it after this movie came out that they restarted doing it again. And now it's their number one seller across
That's
the board.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I love when things like that happen.
Swingline is the happiest people in the world that Office Space came out.
Brought back the red stapler, but sunk TGI Fridays.
Right, honestly. It propped up one company and destroyed another.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that Swingline makes a quality product, and if they'd like to sponsor us, they can contact us at thisshowIstrash@gmail.com.
And that goes for everybody listening too. If you are listening right now and you want some one-on-one communication with our show, the best way to reach us is on our email, which is thisshowIstrash@gmail.com. Hit us up. So I think we should take a minute and just appreciate Stephen Root, because the guy that played Milton. This is nothing what he's actually like. If you guys have seen Stephen Root in anything else,
Yes.
he's actually a very gregarious, outgoing, extroverted type person. And even in his personal life, the first time I ever saw him was in News Radio. You guys ever watch that show?
No, I'm sorry, I have not.
Phil Hartman.
Yep.
The guy from Kids in the Hall. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, Dave Foley and even Joe Rogan was in that too, right? Before everybody knew who he was. And so he was great comedic actor. And he came in and did this part and put these giant freaking glasses on that magnified his eyeballs to look humongous, and was fantastic. He's so good in this movie.
I think he's definitely a character actor. One of the things I've actually enjoyed him in right now is he's actually the voice of Cringer from the new Masters of the Universe.
Is he really?
Yes, and he did, I felt, a very good job as the voice of Cringer.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I know that after this movie came out, Milton was kind of, I don't know if he's the person people talk about anymore. I think Blumberg is probably the character everybody pulls from this movie. But when it first came out, everybody was walking around doing Milton impersonations.
Sure.
Right?
I could set the building on fire.
I believe you have my stapler, right? I mean, like that was like what people were doing, and I feel like now Lumberg is the one that everybody loves. But I think he's great.
In my group of people, it depends on the type of group of people you hang out with all the time. Obviously, you guys, but the rest of the people, I would bet it's Lawrence.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, absolutely.
Are they really doing the character, or is that just that?
That might
just
just
how
be
we
the people I hang out with.
There was one time I want to say this was like 2003, 2004, dressed up as Bill Lumberg for Halloween. And that was to this day my favorite Halloween party I've ever gone to. I just walked around. I had a pink shirt and a tie and suspenders. And I just walked around with a mug. The entire party, I never broke character. And I just walked up to people the whole night and just kept going, "Hey, Mel, what's happening? Yeah, I'm going to need you to go ahead and grab me a bag of chips from the table. That would be great. And
They would do it.
I'll go ahead and make sure you get another copy of that memo." And literally did that for like 4 hours talking to people.
I believe that was the party I was Scooby-Doo at.
That's right.
That's right.
And it was the greatest Halloween of my entire life.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. That was the night that Joseph Gortowski came in as the Russian.
That's right.
I don't even know what to call him. He had the track pants.
That's right.
And the gold
Boris.
chains. Boris.
It was
Thank
Boris.
you. Yes, that was a good one.
It was fun. This movie has just impacted my life in a lot of different ways.
I was just going to say I was not invited to that party.
Neither was I. Different reasons, probably.
Were you around at the time?
No, I just thought it was funny to say that.
Oh, yeah, got it.
You can cut this bit out.
Early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, you're going to need to invite me to that party next time. Thanks.
So normally we can't do this because there's just so many of the movies we talk about. There's not even top 5 quotes.
Oh, dude.
Right. And so we're not going to do that now. But what I want to know from you guys is, what do you guys think is the best line? Even if it's one we've already talked about, what do you guys think is the best line of dialogue, or the most memorable, or the funniest, however you want to qualify it? What is the best line in this film?
My favorite line of the film is going to be when they're talking about the high school guidance counselor. What would you do? This, that, the other thing. The entire question is BS, because nobody would be a janitor, because if nobody would clean up if they had $1 million. So, like, that is legitimately, to me, that was the realest thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good one. I laugh every time I hear that.
And besides, who's going to take career guidance advice from somebody who ended up a high school guidance counselor? Sorry, Carl Richter.
Sorry, Carl. What about you guys?
I'm still going. I know I said this earlier, but I loved when Michael Bolton said, "No talent ass clowns started winning Grammys." I just think it's so funny because he's so mad about the fact that he has the same name as him. And he was like, "We were doing fine until
that's what I'm saying.
Winning Grammys." Yeah.
That hits me good, because my name was completely good and respectable right up until 1992, when there was a presidential election between Clinton and Bush. Like, you know how many people you would come up to me at that point and say, "Hey, who'd you vote for, Perot?" Because, of course, Perot was in that one, too.
Right.
Like, no, I didn't vote for anybody. I'm 12. I mean, it's like...
You even had a theme song then. Bush, Clinton, Bush.
That's right.
Clinton, Bush.
But imagine being that. Imagine
pizza, I think.
Like, you're living your best life, right? And everything's fine. And then out of nowhere, somebody named Kurt Mummer just gets incredibly famous.
I'd be so mad.
That isn't you.
I'd be so mad.
It'd be terrible.
Or opposite, what if he ruined it?
Right.
Became famous and
He
then
was a serial killer.
Yeah. That's
Right?
exactly.
Oh, that happened.
I mean, imagine all the people that are named Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
Right there. That's
That
just
gotta be more than a few.
that are just regular dudes.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
If you're named Jeffrey Dahmer, please email the show.
Email at thisshowistrash@gmail.com.
Can we go into like a 20-minute side on Jeffrey Dahmer jokes that are no longer relevant but still funny?
Now, what's your favorite line of dialogue from this movie?
I don't know. I kind of celebrate them all. I like the whole collection. That entire sequence with the Michael Bolton stuff is my favorite.
Awesome.
With the Bobs.
Yeah,
with
I mean,
Michaels.
with John C. McGinley's performance at that point when he's just leaning back, waiting for just the little moments, like when he's not even speaking, just waiting for the guy to talk.
It's kind of
His facial expression, like he's just so excited at what song he's going to say. And he's, I agree. I'm the same way. It just, and even the face he's making, like when John asks the guy, like, what would you say you do here? And he's just like, got this look on his face, like waiting for him to explain, waiting for him to explain what he does. It's those little things make a great performance. Brady, how about you?
I'm going to go with the Lawrence quote. It's the, no. I think you get your ass kicked for saying something like that.
Yeah,
that's great. That's
I think that's an undersung.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Line.
I agree. In that scene specifically, it's overshadowed by the $1 million thing.
Exactly.
It's great.
And the two chicks at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So the one I'm going to go with has to do with the TGI Fridays, of course, because that was kind of my frame of reference for this movie. But every single time when he's trying to explain to her how they're going to rip off this company and they're in the car, right? And he's like going through the whole thing. He's like, no, you need to take a penny from the tray, right? And he has to explain, like, we're just doing it from a much bigger tray and we're doing it a couple thousand times. And she says, well, you know, just because I hate my job doesn't mean that I'm going to start taking money from the cash register. And he said, well, maybe you should. You know, the Nazis had pieces of flair that they made the Jews wear. What? Every single time. It kills me. That's such a great written line, and it's so ridiculous, and it's so over the top, and it's not even close to the same thing that Fridays is having people. Like, he's equating that to having to wear pins on your suspenders at Fridays or tchotchkes or whatever. And
then he just brushes those. We don't have to talk about this now.
That's right.
You know, James, I think we've uncovered something from your past.
What's that?
Why didn't you just add a little bit more flair?
I was.
You would have been successful.
No, here's the thing. I was closer to the guy that he's saying you need to be like, as Kurt told you, right? I wore like more flair than would fit on my suspenders. I was trying.
Absolutely.
I was trying as hard as I can to be like, what's up? Welcome to Fridays, like, because I wanted to be good at my job back then. Now, looking back, and when I see this guy, I'm like, oh man. I'm not ashamed to admit I was closer to that guy than Jennifer Aniston.
Well, you've always been obviously we've all been entertainers in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be class clown or just acting in general, and obviously you've taken a lot further than most of us. But the mere fact that I feel like it was a good opportunity for you to sort of put on a show, and it made you entertain people.
Yeah.
But I'm sure day in and day out, every day you got to work, there's the picture of the clown with a tear. You know what I mean? There's So I'm sure ultimately there's a point where you're just like, I've had it. I'm done.
I did, but what was very cathartic is right after I worked there, I got to work at Ed DeBevick's, which
where you get to make fun of people.
We just get to be mean to customers, and so I just got to let out like 6 years
frustration.
Frustration I've built up.
I was
pent up aggression.
Is that something that in the interview process when you go to Ed DeBevick's, how long have you been in food service? 6 months.
Right.
No.
Right.
8 years. This is the guy right here. 8 years.
Honestly, what the thing they made you do in the interview is that because they want to know you could perform on your feet, is they would make you improvise. They would like literally do like improv stuff with you in the interview to see if you could react and have quick answers and things like that. And so that was awesome because I had done a ton of that stuff already up to the point. But I think it helps, if you have food service experience.
Is it full life improv?
Yeah, like regular life is improv.
Every second of every
Honestly,
life?
This is what people that get scared to do improv don't, they're like, oh my God, I don't know how you do that. I'm like, you literally do it every day of your life. You just, putting too much pressure on yourself.
So that script I get in my email every morning is...
That's not from the actual Prince of Saudi Arabia.
That's right. All right, let's move on to awards. We've got to give this movie some awards. It deserves all of the awards. And so we're going to start with our Will Patton Award for our bit player that was just bringing the intensity. And I was going to go John C. McGinley here, but I actually want to put him in my top 3, so I'm saving him for that instead. But I'll kick us off and say that my nominee for the Will Patton Award is Dietrich Bader, which is the guy that played Lawrence, his next door neighbor.
I had said that one earlier, but we need more people in there because we need more people to vote.
If you can get a number 2, then he's that much closer to winning.
Right. We're going for that the O-Face guy. I don't know his character name, but like he was in 2 small parts and he crushed intensity in both of them. I think he delivered fantastically. He was second place.
All right. Got it.
I'm actually agreeing with Clint. He's kind of the reason why I watched the movie.
Okay.
Because how I heard about this movie was my buddy Keith.
Okay.
He was running a video store, a very small video store in Antioch. It was the second one that was not Lions Video. It was the other one that was just down in the same plaza, but very small. He was the one that was kind of like, yeah, I got to show her my O-Face. And I was like, what is that from? Because like you said, we always say lines from movies in our daily life.
Right.
And I was like, what is that from? And he was like, oh, it's this movie Office Space. You need to see it. And I was like, oh. And that was the first reason I rented that movie. So that's kind of where I guess my love for it started.
I can't argue with it. I can't really argue with anybody's pick on this because they're all great. How about for you, Mel?
I'll go with Samir.
Samir.
Not gonna work here anymore.
Not gonna make my top 3.
not gonna make my top 3. He was great. What about you, Brady?
I'm going to go a bit obscure here.
Ooh.
And I have reasoning. So I'm going to go with Orlando Jones.
Oh, yes. I forgot about Orlando Jones.
Yes.
What am I going to do with 40 subscriptions to Vibe?
I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest with you. I made up all that on crack stuff because it helped me sell magazines.
That's right. What were you going to say, Brady? Sorry.
Right. He's in one scene. One.
Yeah.
And he does the pretending to be. He's doing the bad acting, but passable bad acting.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we all know he's a good actor. We've seen him in other things, right?
Yes.
Remember we all were introduced to him through 7-Up Yours.
That's right.
As well.
Make 7-Up
kids
yours.
Go look up that ad campaign.
I actually referenced that last week to a kid who was grabbing a 7-Up can out of the soda machine at the store.
Did they have a clue what you were talking about?
Not one, but his dad laughed. So I'm
there you go. Yeah. There you go.
There you go. But yeah, it's not exactly easy to act poorly and be passably good at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, big props to that.
And apparently he based that from what he said off. I don't remember if it was like his niece or his little sister, but one of them was going around selling Girl Scout cookies, but they did it in such like an uninterested, over it, not excited manner that he always thought it was hilarious, and that's what he was doing. He said when he did that movie.
I used to be addicted to crack, but now I am off of it.
Right, exactly. Will you please buy some Girl Scout cookies? Right.
I know a lot of Girl Scouts hooked on crack.
So, those are all good choices. So we didn't have one unanimous or 1 second vote. So how we decide who actually wins the Will Patton Award?
Well, me and Clint both voted for that.
Oh, you did? That's right. I forgot. Okay, so then he wins. The O-Face guy wins our Will Patton Award. Yes. Then. Yeah. And we should probably know what his name is, but we don't. Sorry, O-Face guy. We're moving on.
We're going to Google the O-Face guy.
We're moving on. We are now to our brand new award that was just started last episode during Spy Hard. So this is our Trash Can Full of Dirt Award. And this is the award that we give out to a person whose part could have been played by a trash can full of dirt. So this is going to be a hard one to do because there wasn't really that many trash can full of dirt performances in this movie. But I think there is one. And so I'm going to give the trash can full of dirt to Dom, the second manager guy that came in after Lumberg and slapped people on the back because he didn't really, going back and looking at his performance.
Yeah.
He was kind of vanilla and one note.
He was the buddy boss.
He was the buddy boss and he didn't do much with what he was given. And he gets the trash can full of dirt award. Unless any of you have another opinion on who should win it.
Well, I agree with you, but thinking about it, I was kind of like, I felt like I know Jennifer Aniston is famous, and but
you're gonna give the trash can full of dirt award to Jennifer Aniston.
I feel like any other girl could have played that role.
I feel like
it wouldn't have changed the movie.
I feel like Kurt is not completely wrong. Like the character was amazing, but I don't think she elevated the written character at all.
Anyone could have.
All right.
You could have put anybody in there.
All right, hold on. I have to disagree. She didn't do great. Go ahead, Brady. You got something to add?
I want to put a nominee in.
We can
okay. Continue this discussion.
Yeah, so real quick, I'll do it, and then I'll come back to you. So it wasn't her best performance. I'll agree that. We could list our top 10 performers. I don't think Jennifer is going to make it my top 10, not in this movie.
No.
But there are a couple moments where she did her Jennifer Aniston thing.
I think it's more that we expect more from and didn't get.
I think now she would do, when I saw her like in Horrible Bosses, she's fantastic.
But she was a main, she's, like I said, that's not an interchangeable role. I feel like you could put any woman in this role.
Right.
That it wasn't like famous.
It wasn't so great because she was in it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Brady, you got a nominee for the trash can full of dirt?
I do, and I don't want to. It's going to sound misogynist because we can just put any other woman in this role as well. And I actually mean this one, Anne.
Anne. Oh yeah.
You guys remember her?
Yeah. The awful girlfriend.
Yes.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
She is the worst actor in this movie.
She did terrible. You're right. No, I'm mad at myself for not. All right, we're moving the other. Where Anne is the winner of the trash can full of dirt.
I don't know.
I'm changing mine.
I'm seconding the Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, okay. All right. It's going to come down to you.
I'm going to go with the dirt with the girlfriend. You're
all right.
I forget. It's so bad. We knew Jennifer Aniston was in it, and again, while we expected more in it, she didn't deliver everything. This other was trash.
All right, so then Anne's our winner then for our trash can full of dirt award.
Absolutely.
We'll give it to her. And by the way, the guy that won the Will Patton Award, his name is Greg Pitts. Greg Pitts is the O-Face guy. So, Anne, we don't know what your name is either. All right, it's time to do our top three performers. So if you looked at this movie, this is where it gets tough. Like when we did Galaxy Quest, it was really hard. There's so many people that this could be, but do your best. Please give an actual answer. Don't just say everybody or I can only pick number one. Give me a top three performers. You guys all know that we do this every episode, and yet half of you are never ready to do this. I don't understand why.
I'm going to go with Peter at number 3.
All right.
I didn't know him from anything else, so I felt like as a main lead character, he gets my number 3 spot.
That's a good one.
Then I'm going to go with the Perry Cox. I enjoyed him.
John C. McGinley?
Yes,
okay.
at number 2.
Okay.
And then I also want to do Stephen Root, number 1.
Stephen Root, number 1. Okay.
I've always loved him in everything he's been in.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he's a really great character actor.
He crushes it, and no one's going to be able to argue with him.
For being such a ridiculous character in this, it's believable.
Totally believable. Because
and like Mel said earlier, you know that guy. You've run into that guy somewhere in your life.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, who would like to go next?
I'll go.
All right, Mel.
All right, so Peter for number 3.
Yes.
The boss, Bill Lumbergh, for number 2.
Okay.
And John C. McGinley for number 1.
Number 1. All right. And what was the moment for you that sealed that for you? John C. McGinley is number 1. What's the moment?
The entire closed door office sessions to where he just gets so fired up about Peter and the situation he's given him.
The pleasure's all on this side of the table.
To where Bill's holding him back when he's about to talk to Lumbergh.
In a movie full of so many great parts and people, I think the big ones are just reiterated around the table for the most part, but I'm going to change the order a little bit. I think the boss, Bill Lumbergh, he is going to be my 3 because iconic, 100%. The delivery, Reese Bobby, he killed it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go with Peter Gibbons. Yep. He was absolutely integral to the movie. Good delivery, believable-ish.
Yep.
And then we're going to go with Perry Cox again. It was everything about just his delivery, his facial, his everything. He just did a fantastic job of acting without overact. He was definitely extra, but not over.
Well, and
that was the point.
How good you have to be. He worked like 3 days on this movie to come in and basically steal the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. All right, Brady, who you got?
I'm going to go a little different. Number 3, I'm going to go with Richard Reel. Was his name Richard?
Richard Reel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name? The Jump to Conclusions Mac guy.
Simkowski. Yeah.
Yeah, Simkowski. I think his performance was just wonderful.
Yep.
just we all know that guy too.
Yeah, he's that guy.
I'm gonna go with Livingston as 2. He's great in everything he does. Although nobody knew who he was when he did this movie.
It's true.
He's the Luke Skywalker of this movie.
Yep.
Number 1 is hard.
Right, but who was the one you watch it that you're like, this is the best guy in this movie?
Yeah, we're gonna have to go with. Well, should I call him Dr. Cox like everybody else, or should I? Like,
yeah,
I just kind of feel that's like wrong. We should call him by his actual name. It's,
John.
That's it. Yeah, McGinley, right?
Yeah, I think John is going to end up being the overall number 1 here, even though I didn't pick him at number 1. I had him at number 2. 3 of you did, and I'm not going to argue with that. John basically stole this movie in 4 scenes or whatever he was in. My 3, I had Ron Livingston also in the top 3. I think this movie doesn't work if Peter isn't, performed the right way with the right amount of endearing quality that makes you feel empathy for him, right? And he did that really, really well. I had John C. McGinley at number 2 for all the reasons that have already been said. And I did have Gary Cole at number 1 just because I feel like his performance was the most long-lasting part of this movie. It became the most iconic thing from this movie. I don't know if he did the best acting job. He definitely had to play the character in like a one-note performance because that's
who the character was.
He was a one-note guy, right? He was totally a vanilla, even-keeled dude. Never had his never got angry or upset or anything. And I guess Gary did say that there was a scene where after his Porsche gets the bumper ripped off, there's a scene that they filmed of Bill Lumbergh going out and screaming and yelling at the tow truck guy and getting all upset, and that he was really glad they cut it because he thinks it's better that he just is always like at the same level,
right?
Yeah.
In every scene.
So. And as far as like recognizing other characters from other things, I'm number 1 at that. I don't remember anyone's name, and I will reference other movies.
That's me
throughout this whole.
That's fine. That's
podcast.
Fine. It's all good.
But again, to defend mine, when McGillis actually turned around, and what would you say? He interviewed
Bill
for the job. Yeah. That was the moment. I was like, that's
how much time do you spend with these TPS reports?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slowly puts his coffee cup down.
Right.
That was probably my moment if I had to crown.
Because we all know these bosses that walk around and terrorize people, a lot of times are sitting in their office doing a whole lot of nothing. Right.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, I appreciate you coming in, and hopefully you enjoyed our little talk about Office Space. If you guys haven't done it yet, hit us up on social media. Head to Facebook, facebook.com/badmoviesrule, and follow the podcast. And then, tell a friend about it. If you could say, hey, man, especially if you know somebody that loves Office Space, the best way for a podcast to grow is through people just talking to their friends and saying, hey, man, you've got to listen to this. Send them the link. Send the link to the podcast, to the show, to this episode, to somebody that you know that loves movies or loves Office Space. We would greatly appreciate it. And we appreciate you that you've listened this entire time. Thanks for making this podcast continue to grow. It's been a lot of fun. We're 20-something episodes in now. We're just going to keep going. We love and appreciate everybody.
By the way, since we're talking about podcasts,
I
would like to give, I'm pretty well known for giving gifts.
You have a gift for somebody?
I do. I have a gift for Mr. Clint Bush.
Oh, let's go.
For his either pre-birthday or after
When's your birthday?
February 1.
And
so
just so you know,
we are exactly as far away as we can get.
Oh, so this is his half birthday.
And it's wrapped in Toy Story wrapping.
I like the pigs.
Hold on, wait. I can't film because you're on my phone. Never mind.
Well, just so you know, you can't have Howard the Duck or Toy Story without Howard the Duck.
That's right. All right, so let's see what you got for.
I'm pretty sure we know what it is already. Kurt
Do we?
Let it out of the bag.
I didn't hear what he said.
This is Howard the Duck.
Is it?
You're wrong.
I'm wrong. Oh my God! It's
what is
my
it?
Very wow! Megaforce, so that I don't have to pay $3 to watch it again.
And you have to play it on loop at the track.
You did say that you would play it on loop.
There you go.
There you go. They still sell Megaforce.
I had to draw some blood, but yes, I was able to get
it. This is his third copy.
Let me see this.
It's not mint condition packaging. That's probably why he got rid of that one.
All right, so the tagline for this movie.
This is good.
There has never been a superhero like Ace Hunt. We're going to pretend Ace Hunter is a superhero now?
It's the spandex.
We were pretending the whole time.
You have to be able to fill out your arm sleeves in your jumpsuit for you to be a superhero.
Maybe that was his superhero power, is the ability to stand without muscle.
I'm wondering if they're still underwater from the printing cost of these DVDs.
They have to be. They have to be.
Thank God somebody bought one.
If people,
It's like this is the biggest boost of sales since like the day after it came out.
They
That's what I'm
called me
saying.
and thanked me.
they
I'm
need
not
to
gonna-
sell at least 4,000 more copies. They called and thanked.
My wife got that in the mail, and she goes, "What is this?" I was like, "It's for the show." And she went, "All right."
He's got a much better filled out
Oh, he looks much more
area
muscular.
in the
On
drawn.
That almost
the drawn
reminds
cover.
me.
That's him standing with the girl that he wouldn't let be in Megaforce.
It reminds me of old school, the one with Kurt Russell. I just mentioned it earlier. Big Trouble in
Little China. Yeah.
That's almost looks like the movie poster to me.
It does.
The very shiny.
Yeah.
Except the level of quality between those two movies is as wide a gulf as no one would ever be able to cross.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will not watch Megaforce again.
Yeah, you will. 'cause
right.
When
Oh,
you're,
that's right. When I'm at
when
the
you're
track.
putting
Yes.
That's
the bathroom back together, this is going to be specifically facing into and trapping you.
Well, we always said you were a closet fan, and now you have your own copy of the movie.
I know, now it
so
can't be
now
denied,
you
I
can't be
suppose.
denied. This is James Hauser for Mel Vandy, Kurt Mummer, Clinton Bush, and Brady Cox. We love you guys, and we will see you again next week.
Let's just do this one again next week, so we can talk about
We'll
it.
just
more.
keep talking about Office Space.